Imagine dying with more money than entire countries. Not millions, not billions, but wealth so vast that modern economists still struggle to calculate it. These weren't lottery winners. They weren't lucky. They understood something about money that most people never figure out in their entire lifetime. Today, we're going inside the minds of the richest human beings who ever walked this earth, people like John D. Rockefeller, Mansa Musa, Andrew Carnegie, the Rothschilds, J.P. Morgan, and Hetty Green, to extract 6 timeless lessons that can genuinely change how you think about money forever. Stay with me, because lesson 4 is the one that almost nobody talks about, and it's probably the most important one on this list. Let's get into it. The first lesson comes from a man so wealthy that economists at Time magazine literally said his net worth is too big to calculate. Mansa Musa, the 14th century emperor of the Mali Empire, controlled more than half of the world's gold supply at his peak. When he made his famous pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, he traveled with 60,000 people and gave away so much gold along the way that he single-handedly crashed the economies of Egypt, Arabia, and Mali itself. And it took over a decade for those regions to recover. The man caused inflation across 3 continents just by being generous. So what's the lesson? Mansa Musa teaches us that true wealth is not about hoarding. It's about controlling flow. He didn't become powerful because he kept all his gold locked in a vault. He became powerful because he understood that money is a river, not a pond. The richest people in history were always at the center of economic flow. They built systems, trade routes, and networks that made money pass through them constantly. Most people think wealth is about accumulation, saving more, spending less, sitting on a pile of cash. But the richest people in history weren't just accumulators. They were architects of systems where wealth naturally gravitated toward them. Ask yourself today, are you building a pond or are you building a river? Lesson 2 takes us to John D. Rockefeller, the first person in American history to become a billionaire, and by many estimates, still the wealthiest American who ever lived when you adjust for inflation. His peak net worth was somewhere around $400 billion in today's money. But here's what's fascinating about Rockefeller. He grew up dirt poor. His father was a con man who abandoned the family. And yet, from the time he earned his very first paycheck at age 16 working as a clerk, he tied 10% to his church, saved a portion, and kept meticulous records of every single cent he ever spent or earned. Every single cent for his entire life. The lesson from Rockefeller is deceptively simple. Obsessive financial awareness creates wealth, not obsessive frugality. Awareness. There's a difference. He didn't refuse to spend money. He refused to spend money unconsciously. Most people have no real idea where their money goes. They feel vaguely anxious about finances, check their bank account occasionally, and hope things work out. Rockefeller treated money the way a surgeon treats a patient, with precision, attention, and deep respect. He once said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the secret to wealth is to make money, save some, and give some away, and to do all 3 deliberately. What would change in your financial life if you tracked every dollar for just 30 days? Most people who try this are genuinely shocked by what they find. Now, lesson 3, and this one comes from the Rothschild family, the legendary European banking dynasty that for nearly 2 centuries was the wealthiest family on earth. At their height in the 19th century, the Rothschild family controlled wealth equivalent to roughly $2 trillion today. Governments borrowed from them. Wars were financed through them. Their reach was extraordinary. And the secret to their multi-generational dominance came down to one word: patience. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, the patriarch who started it all from a tiny street in Frankfurt, built his empire with a time horizon that most people cannot even comprehend. He wasn't thinking about next year. He wasn't thinking about the next decade. He was building something for his children, his grandchildren, and their grandchildren. He arranged for his 5 sons to be stationed in 5 different European cities: Frankfurt, Vienna, London, Naples, and Paris, creating a financial network so interconnected that information and capital could flow faster than any competitor could match. The Rothschilds didn't just invest money. They invested time. They understood that compound interest, the concept Einstein supposedly called the 8th wonder of the world, only reveals its full magic over generations, not quarters. Here's the brutal truth. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and catastrophically underestimate what they can build in 20 years. The Rothschilds played a game that most people never even sign up for because the payoff felt too far away. Long-term thinking isn't just a virtue. In wealth building, it is a strategy. Lesson 4, the one I promise you, comes from a woman named Hetty Green, and almost nobody teaches the story. Hetty Green was born in 1834 and died in 1916. And at the time of her death, she was the richest woman in the world in a state worth around $200 million, which translates to somewhere between $3 and $5 billion today. She was so legendary in financial circles that she was known on Wall Street as the Witch of Wall Street. Not because she was scary, but because her ability to make money seemed supernatural. Here's the lesson Hetty Green teaches us. The greatest wealth-building move is almost never making money. It's not losing it. While the men around her were speculating wildly, chasing railroad booms and real estate bubbles, Hetty Green was patient, contrarian, and almost pathologically focused on avoiding catastrophic loss. She bought assets when everyone else was panicking and selling them cheap. She sold when everyone else was greedy. She lent money to New York City itself during financial crises, at interest, when the city couldn't borrow from anyone else. She understood something profound. In a world where most investors eventually blow themselves up, simply not losing becomes a superpower. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors alive, echoes this directly with his famous 2 rules. Rule 1, never lose money. Rule 2, never forget Rule 1. Hetty Green understood this a century before Buffett made it famous. Protection of capital is not the boring, conservative cousin of wealth building. It is wealth building. Lesson 5 comes from Andrew Carnegie, the Scottish immigrant who arrived in America penniless and became the wealthiest person in the world at the turn of the 20th century. His net worth at peak was estimated at around $480 billion in today's money. But the lesson Carnegie gives us isn't about steel mills or monopolies. It's about knowledge as the ultimate investment. Carnegie was obsessed with self-education. Born into poverty, he could barely attend school as a child. But as a teenager, a local philanthropist opened his personal library to working boys in Pittsburgh, and Carnegie walked miles every week to borrow books. He later said that this access to knowledge changed everything for him, which is exactly why, when he became rich, he donated money to build over 2,500 public libraries around the world. He didn't just believe in education philosophically. He had direct, lived evidence that knowledge compounds exactly like money does. Every book he read led to a better decision. Every better decision created more opportunity. More opportunity created more wealth, which created access to more knowledge, and so the cycle accelerated. Carnegie's lesson is this. The most reliable investment you will ever make is in expanding what you know how to do. Skills, knowledge, and understanding are assets that can never be repossessed, taxed away, or lost in a market crash. The return on investment on genuine knowledge is infinite. And the 6th lesson, perhaps the most counterintuitive of all, comes from J.P. Morgan, the titan who built an American financial empire in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and was so powerful that when the U.S. government couldn't stop a financial panic in 1907, they called him in, and he personally stabilized the entire American banking system over a single weekend. His net worth at death was around $1.4 billion. But when John D. Rockefeller heard that number, he reportedly said, "And to think, he wasn't even a rich man. What made Morgan extraordinary wasn't just his money. It was his network." The 6th lesson is this. Your relationships are your most undervalued financial asset. Morgan understood that the right handshake, the right dinner, the right conversation with the right person at the right moment was worth more than years of careful saving. He cultivated relationships with the most powerful people in industry, banking, government, and politics, not as a manipulation tactic, but because he genuinely understood that in the world of large-scale wealth, nothing significant is ever built alone. Information moves through relationships. Opportunity moves through relationships. Capital moves through relationships. Most people treat networking as an awkward chore they endure at conferences. The wealthiest people in history treated relationships as a core financial strategy, as seriously as they treated any investment portfolio. So, let's pull it all together. 6 lessons, 6 people, 6 principles that stretch across centuries but feel just as relevant today as they did when they were first lived out. Control the flow of money. Don't just accumulate it. Track every dollar with precision and awareness. Think in decades, not months. Protect what you have as aggressively as you chase what you want. Invest relentlessly in knowledge and skills. And build relationships as deliberately as you build savings accounts. Here's the thing that strikes me about all 6 of these people: Mansa Musa, Rockefeller, the Rothschilds, Hetty Green, Carnegie, and Morgan. None of them had access to the stock market apps on your phone. None of them had index funds or podcasts about personal finance or YouTube videos breaking down their strategies. What they had was clarity of principle. They understood money at a fundamental level: what it is, how it moves, what grows it, what destroys it. And they never lost sight of those fundamentals, no matter how complex the world around them became. The tools available to the average person today would have made these titans absolutely dizzy with excitement. The question is whether you're using them or just scrolling past them. If this video shifted even one idea in your head about money, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more deep dives like this into history's greatest minds and what they actually knew, you know where to find us.